The chamber of the War Council was dark, lit only by the pale glow of star maps that hovered above the circular table. Dozens of alien officers, each armored in polished steel and crowned with the insignia of their conquests, sat in silence. Their eyes turned toward the figure at the center, General Korathul, the Empire's most feared commander. He rose slowly, his massive frame towering over the others, and jabbed one clawed finger toward the holographic map. The projection shifted, zooming in past the spiral arms of the galaxy, narrowing to a single blue planet spinning under the warmth of its sun. "Earth," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "The humans call it a death world. They whisper it with pride, as though storms, beasts, and poisoned skies made them powerful. But I see only a joke, an overrated world that should have crushed them long ago." A ripple of unease passed among the council. The officers exchanged wary glances, though none dared interrupt at first. General Korathul let out a low, mocking laugh. "These humans survive by accident. They stumble through chaos and claim it as strength. A planet where even plants can kill them, yet somehow they survived. That is not power. That is chance." One officer finally stood, his voice firm but edged with caution. "General, forgive me, but you underestimate them. We have seen reports. These humans adapt at a pace our scholars cannot explain. They learn. They change. And when they fight, they refuse to surrender." Korathul's smile widened, showing jagged teeth. "Adaptation is nothing but desperation dressed in false glory. Rats adapt. Insects adapt. Do you fear them as well?" The officer lowered his head, silenced, but the unease in the chamber grew thicker. Another voice spoke, this one quieter, more hesitant. "With respect, General, the humans defeated the Zorath Raiders in only 2 weeks. The Zin fleets lost entire squadrons to human traps. They are unpredictable, dangerous." The general's claws tapped against the steel table, slow and deliberate. His eyes glowed faintly red in the half-light as he leaned forward. "Dangerous. To us, the Empire has crushed civilizations far greater than theirs. We burned the Kreshi from their oceans. We shattered the Torlan fleets before they even left orbit. Do not insult me with this. Myth of human strength." The holographic star map rotated, casting blue light across his face. Earth glimmered in the center, so small, so fragile. Korathul raised his arm and with a flick of his claw commanded the projection to magnify. Cities sparkled across continents. Tiny dots of light spread across the darkness. "Look at them," he sneered, "crowded in fragile nests of glass and metal. They have no unity, no discipline. Their armies squabble over borders, while their leaders argue in halls of words. And yet you would have me fear them." He laughed again, louder this time, echoing through the chamber. Silence followed, but it was not agreement. The officers shifted uneasily in their seats. One of the oldest among them, Admiral Vare, leaned forward. His voice carried a note of warning that cut through the heavy air. "General, every species that mocked Earth has suffered. You may call them disorganized, but they rise when threatened. I was there when human soldiers faced the Krith. They should have broken. They did not. They fought with fire in their eyes, as if death itself was their ally." The room fell still. Even Korathul did not speak for a moment. His jaw clenched. His pride, however, refused to yield. "Stories," he spat. "Fables told by those too weak to crush an enemy properly. I will not fear creatures who bleed so easily. Their bones snap, their lungs choke, their bodies shatter in our grip. Yet you compare them to warriors." The Admiral held his tongue, but his eyes did not lower. General Korathul turned his back on the council and walked toward the massive viewport at the edge of the chamber. Beyond it, the void of space stretched endlessly, stars glinting like shards of glass. He stared into the distance, as though already envisioning Earth's surface burning beneath his fleets. "Earth will be our next conquest," he declared. "Its people will kneel before me. Its armies will scatter like dust in the wind. And when their leaders beg for mercy, I will remind them that their so-called death world could not protect them." The officers remained silent, but the tension pressed down like a storm. Each one remembered past reports, the whispered warnings, the strange resilience of humankind. Yet none dared oppose him openly. The general's pride was as dangerous as his blade. He turned back toward them, eyes blazing, his voice a roar that filled the chamber. "Mark my words. These humans are nothing. Their planet is nothing, and soon the galaxy will laugh with me at their defeat. Humans will crawl before me, His words echoed into the silence, sharp and cold. The council bowed in submission, though unease remained in their hearts. Far below, in the spinning dark of space, Earth continued its quiet turn around the sun. Its oceans shimmered, its storms raged, its mountains stood tall. The so-called Deathworld waited, indifferent to the arrogance of those who would challenge it. And somewhere in the shadows of the Empire's memory, the first seeds of doubt had been planted. The Empire's fleet slid out of warp like shadows breaking into dawn. Hundreds of warships, each bristling with cannons and glowing engines, took position above Earth's orbit. Their hulls reflected sunlight in sheets of silver and crimson, casting long shadows over the blue planet below. General Korathul stood on the bridge of his flagship, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on Earth. The sight should have inspired awe, but to him it was nothing more than a conquest waiting to be claimed. "Begin the assault," he commanded, his voice calm, almost bored. "Show these humans what true war looks like." A chorus of alien voices obeyed. Warships opened fire, hurling down beams of light and burning plasma. Shields crackled over Earth's defense satellites, but one by one they fell, consumed by fire. Cities on the surface trembled as the first shockwaves reached them. Humanity's defenses scrambled to respond. Jet fighters streaked into the sky. Missile silos unlocked and roared into life, releasing streams of burning trails into the heavens. Naval fleets fired from the oceans, their weapons primitive compared to alien tech. But desperate and relentless, on the flagship, alien officers chuckled at the sight. "Pathetic," one sneered, watching a squadron of jets explode under a single plasma bolt. "Outdated toys," another said, laughing as human missiles scattered against the Empire's shields. But even as they mocked, something began to trouble them. The humans didn't run. Despite the destruction, despite the hopeless odds, Earth fought back. Pilots dove straight into alien fire, ramming when out of weapons. Soldiers on the ground set up defenses in smoking ruins, refusing to retreat. Commanders shouted orders through failing comms, rallying their people again and again. Reports flashed across Korathul's console. Human resistance strong, casualties heavy but still fighting. The general's lips curled in irritation. "Primitive defiance," he muttered. "It changes nothing." But his officers glanced at one another. They had crushed dozens of worlds, but none had resisted like this. Most species collapsed in fear at the sight of the Empire's fleets. Humanity bled, but humanity refused to kneel. On the surface, chaos reigned. In the ruins of New York, soldiers dragged civilians into bunkers as alien dropships rained fire. In the deserts of Africa, armored columns rolled across scorched earth, engaging the invaders with everything they had. In the skies above Tokyo, pilots with trembling hands guided their jets into impossible maneuvers, sometimes taking down alien fighters with sheer desperation. Broadcasts flickered across the planet, shaky footage of battles streaming into every home. The world watched as their armies fought with no thought of surrender. On the alien flagship, a young strategist leaned toward the general. His voice was low but edged with concern. "General, the humans are adapting." Korathul's head snapped around. "What did you say?" The strategist pointed to a cluster of reports. "Their forces learn faster than expected. Look here, their missiles now change course mid-flight. Their ground forces are using ambush tactics. Their pilots—" He paused, unsure how to continue. "Their pilots are unpredictable. They fight like no species we've faced." Korathul slammed a clawed fist onto the console, making sparks leap from the surface. "They are nothing but animals clawing in the dirt. I will crush them." But even as he roared, another report came in, alien outpost destroyed by human forces, not by advanced technology, but by sheer cunning. Somewhere in the smoke and ruins, soldiers had learned to use captured alien weapons, the council chamber filled with a tense silence. The laughter that had once filled the bridge was gone. Officers leaned forward, eyes fixed on their screens, watching the humans grow deadlier with every hour. Korathul's anger boiled, but beneath it flickered a sliver of something he refused to name. For the first time, the Empire had found prey that fought back. The first contact war had begun, and humanity was not breaking. They were learning, and every battle taught them how to kill gods. The war dragged into its second week. What should have been a swift conquest became something else, something the Empire had never faced before. Reports flooded into General Korathul's war council. Supply convoys ambushed, patrols disappearing into forests. Entire platoons swallowed by storms and quakes. The humans weren't just fighting. The planet itself seemed to resist the invaders. On the flagship, Korathul's temper grew darker with each passing hour. He watched the battle maps, the constant flicker of losses that should not have been possible. His empire's technology was superior by centuries, yet somehow the humans endured. "Explain this," he snarled, slamming a claw onto the table. A scientist officer stepped forward nervously, tapping into the holographic display. Earth's surface filled the chamber, rotating slowly. "General, Earth is not like other worlds. It is violent, unstable. Its people are forged by constant struggle." The display zoomed into a storm churning over the Atlantic Ocean. Winds howled across the speakers as waves the size of mountains slammed into each other. "This is a hurricane," the officer explained. "Winds faster than most of our interceptors. Entire cities brace against them, yet the humans rebuild every time." The map shifted again, showing volcanoes erupting with rivers of fire. They live beside these. Entire nations grow on fault lines where the ground itself splits open beneath them. Another shift, to predators. Lions prowling savannas, sharks tearing through oceans, packs of wolves running through snowy forests. On Earth, they are not the top predator by strength, but by will. Every creature is a test of survival. Even their plants and insects are dangerous. Korathul narrowed his eyes, unwilling to admit what he was hearing. The officer's voice grew firmer. "General, humans are not lucky survivors. They are the product of this death world. They evolved in pain and danger. They do not yield because yielding means extinction. Their history is battle after battle, with nature, with each other, with everything that tried to kill them." For a moment, silence ruled the chamber. The officers shifted uneasily. Some nodded. Others avoided the general's gaze. Finally, Korathul laughed, though it was forced. "So storms and beasts made them stubborn? That is your excuse? That is why our fleets bleed. Do not dress fear as wisdom." But even as he spoke, more reports arrived. In the jungles of South America, alien patrols vanished into dense foliage, ambushed by human soldiers who struck and vanished like ghosts. In the deserts of the Middle East, tanks buried in sand opened fire on unsuspecting convoys. In the frozen north, humans fought through blizzards that grounded alien craft. Everywhere, the planet itself seemed to aid its defenders. The admiral who had once warned Korathul finally spoke again, his voice steady. "General, you cannot separate the humans from their world. Earth is their weapon. Every hardship carved them into what they are. We do not fight only humans. We fight the planet that made them." Korathul's claws dug into the steel table, screeching against the metal. His pride refused to bend. Yet the truth was spreading through the ranks. Even among the Empire's soldiers, whispers grew. The humans cannot be broken. The death world has made them demons in flesh. Korathul turned away from the council, staring again through the massive viewport at the blue and green orb below. It gleamed like a jewel, beautiful and terrible. He growled under his breath, a vow spoken to no one but himself. "They will kneel. I will make this death world bleed." But in the silence of space, Earth spun on, storms churning, oceans roaring, mountains standing unshaken, as if daring him to try. Night fell over the ruins of a once bright city. Fires burned in the shattered skyline, smoke trailing into the stars where alien warships still lingered like vultures. But on the ground, in the dark alleys and broken buildings, something was stirring. A squad of human commandos crept through the wreckage. Their uniforms were torn, their weapons scavenged. One carried a rifle patched with alien metal. Another held a blade carved from a shattered alien armor plate. Their leader, Captain Hayes, raised his hand and the squad froze. Above them, an alien patrol passed, tall armored figures, their glowing eyes sweeping across the streets. The humans waited, silent, shadows in the rubble. When the last soldier passed, Hayes gave a sharp signal. The humans struck. A sudden burst of gunfire echoed through the ruins. Explosions ripped through the patrol as humans used hidden charges. Within seconds, the alien squad lay broken, their weapons scattered across the ground. "Grab everything," Hayes ordered, his voice low and urgent. No scrap wasted. The humans worked quickly, stripping armor plates, prying open energy cells, ripping apart rifles. They didn't just steal, they learned. Already, Their mechanics and engineers were experimenting in hidden bunkers, fusing alien technology with human ingenuity. That night, for the first time, an alien weapon fired in human hands. News spread fast. Across every battlefield, soldiers improvised traps using alien energy cores, wired into human minds. Pilots bolted stolen targeting systems onto old jets. Resistance fighters built railguns from scavenged coils. Each victory, no matter how small, gave humanity more tools. On the flagship, Korathul watched in growing fury. Reports flashed before him. Alien outpost destroyed, convoy lost, supply depot breached. Always by small human squads, never in direct battle, always striking where least expected. They fight like vermin, he growled. Skulking, hiding, biting when we turn our backs. Admiral Vare, standing stiff at his side, did not flinch. No, General. They fight like predators. Clever, patient, relentless. Korathul turned on him, teeth bared. Predators? Against us? Do not insult me. But his rage could not hide the truth. The humans were turning his war into a nightmare of ambushes and sabotage. In the mountains of Eastern Europe, humans lured an armored column into a canyon, then detonated stolen plasma charges, burying it in fire and rock. In the jungles, commandos set traps that fried alien circuits, leaving entire platoons blind and helpless. For every alien advance, humans struck from the shadows, and with each clash they grew bolder. On one broadcast, captured by alien sensors and leaked across the Empire, a human soldier stared into the camera, dirt smeared across his face, eyes burning with defiance. "You think we're weak?" he growled. "Come closer. We'll show you what a death world makes." The recording spread like fire through both human and alien channels. For humans, it was a rallying cry. For the Empire, it was a warning. On the flagship, Korathul's claws dug into the railing as he watched. His pride burned, but in the pit of his stomach, something colder settled, an unease. These humans were not just surviving, they were adapting. And worse, they were turning the Empire's weapons against it. In the silence of his chamber, the general whispered to himself, his voice low and bitter, "This is no longer conquest. This is war." The Empire's war effort was unraveling. What should have been a clean conquest had turned into a drawn-out struggle, one that gnawed at discipline and pride alike. For every city burned, another resistance cell appeared. For every base secured, a convoy was lost to ambush. The humans fought with the fury of a world that refused to kneel. General Korathul could no longer tolerate watching from orbit. On the day he descended to Earth, the sky above the war zone split with fire. His personal dreadnought tore through the clouds, shaking the ground with its engines. Soldiers of the Empire gathered in formation as the landing bay opened, spilling fire and smoke across the battlefield. Out of it came the general himself, clad in black war armor etched with crimson runes of victory. The alien troops roared in salute, but their voices carried no joy, only fear and desperation. They had been losing for too long. Korathul's boots hit the ground with a quake. His towering frame glared over the battlefield, his armor gleaming with cruel light. He did not speak at first. He simply looked at the ruined horizon, the smoking wrecks of alien tanks, the broken carcasses of fallen ships, the ruins humans had turned into fortresses. Finally, his voice thundered, "Enough weakness, enough failure. I will bring victory myself." His officers bowed, though their eyes betrayed unease. The campaign shifted under his command. He ordered ruthless strikes. Entire districts burned to flush out resistance. Civilians crushed alongside soldiers. He demanded results, no matter the cost. And for a moment it seemed the tide was turning, but the humans did not break, they fought harder. Every atrocity only hardened their resolve. More civilians joined the fight, arming themselves with stolen rifles, turning city ruins into mazes of traps. Alien patrols reported constant harassment, snipers in towers, mines in streets, ambushes from tunnels. Korathul raged at his commanders. "How can primitives defy us still? We burn their homes, we starve their armies, yet they grow stronger." One officer, trembling, dared to answer, "General, they are not afraid. The more we strike, the more they unite. Our soldiers are weary. They whisper that humans are unkillable." Korathul's eyes blazed, and with a single swipe of his claw he struck the officer down, leaving silence in his wake. "Fear is for the weak," he growled. "I will break this death world with my own hands." But cracks in his forces grew deeper. Whispers spread among the Empire's soldiers. The humans fought with something they themselves lacked: belief. While alien troops followed orders from fear, humans fought for survival, for family, for a world they refused to lose. One night, an alien camp fell silent. Watchtowers unmanned, fires left to burn out. When reinforcements arrived at dawn, the entire battalion was gone, slaughtered in their sleep, every guard cut down with precision. On the walls, written in human blood and ash, was a single message: "This is our world." Cora Thule stared at the words, his pride twisting into fury. His claws clenched so hard his armor groaned. The humans were not broken. The humans were not afraid, and for the first time the general began to feel something new burning beneath his rage: the cold edge of doubt. The final battle came at dawn, beneath a sky split by fire. Alien warships thundered overhead, raining destruction on the land. But the humans did not scatter. They had prepared the battlefield. Every ruined street, every broken wall, every hidden tunnel was a weapon waiting to be unleashed. At the center of it all stood General Cora Thule. His towering armor gleamed with crimson light, his massive blade humming with energy. He strode across the battlefield like a god of war, his soldiers rallying behind him. For too long he had watched his empire falter. Now he would crush humanity with his own hands. The clash began with fury. Human tanks rolled forward, firing shells laced with stolen alien cores. The blasts tore through enemy lines, sending armored beasts flying. From the rooftops, snipers picked off alien commanders. Mines hidden beneath rubble detonated, collapsing entire squads into fiery pits. Yet the general pushed forward, unstoppable. He waded through the storm of fire, his blade cutting tanks in half, his fists crushing soldiers like insects. He laughed as he advanced, shouting into the chaos, "Is this your death world? Show me your strength." But humanity answered. From the smoke emerged Captain Hayes, scarred and weary, his armor patched with scavenged plates. In his hands he carried a weapon forged from both steel and alien tech, a rifle that glowed with blue fire. Their eyes met across the battlefield. The predator and the prey. Hayes raised his weapon and fired. The blast struck Cora Thule's chest, staggering him for the first time. The general roared, charging forward, his massive blade cutting through the air. Hayes dove aside, firing again, striking the giant's armor. Sparks flew. The duel raged amid the chaos. Each time the general struck, Hayes barely escaped, rolling through ash and rubble. Each time Hayes fired, the general's armor weakened further. Around them, humans fought with unyielding fury, holding the line even as alien forces pressed hard. Cora Thule's laughter faded. Sweat streaked his alien brow. His movements grew heavier. This was no ordinary fight. It was a battle against the spirit of humanity itself. With a final roar, he swung his blade down. Hayes raised a stolen alien shield, the impact shaking the ground. Sparks and plasma screamed in the air. Then, with a desperate surge, Hayes fired one last shot into the joint of the general's armor. The massive alien stumbled. His knees buckled. He crashed into the dirt, his weapon falling from his grasp. Gasps echoed across the battlefield. The invincible general, the pride of the Empire, was down. Cora Thule clawed at the ground, trying to rise, but his strength betrayed him. Around him, human soldiers closed in, weapons raised, eyes burning with defiance. For the first time, the general's pride shattered. He had called Earth a joke, its people weak. Yet here he lay, broken, unable to stand, and above him the Deathworld's warriors stood tall, unbroken. The battlefield was silent except for the crackle of fire. Smoke drifted through the ruins, painting the sky in red and grey. Alien corpses lay scattered, their once mighty weapons abandoned. At the center, General Cora Thule knelt, his massive form broken, his blade buried in the dirt. Human soldiers surrounded him. Their armor was dented, their faces scarred, but their eyes blazed with the fire of victory. They had stood against the greatest general of the Empire, and won. Captain Hayes approached, his rifle still smoking. He looked down at the fallen alien, not with triumph but with grim certainty. "You thought Earth was prey," Hayes said quietly, his voice cutting through the silence. "But you walked into a death world." Cora Thule lifted his head, his breath ragged. The pride in his eyes was gone, replaced by something heavier, realization. "A death world," he whispered. "No wonder you endure. No wonder you kill." His voice shook, not from fear but from awe. Above them, the alien fleet began to retreat. Their commander defeated, their will broken, they fled into the void. Across the galaxy, broadcasts carried the images. The Empire's warlord brought low by a world of humans who refused to die. On distant planets, leaders watched in silence. Some in fear, some in respect. For centuries, humanity had been dismissed as fragile creatures clinging to a dangerous rock. Now the galaxy saw the truth. Earth was no ordinary world. It forged predators in human skin, survivors, fighters, beings who could stand against empires and shatter legends. The verdict spread like fire through every star system. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the Deathworld's verdict upon the galaxy. Korathul let his head fall back against the earth. A heavy laugh escaped his throat, broken but real. Perhaps this is how it was meant to end, he said. Not crushed by weakness, but undone by strength we refused to see. Hayes lowered his rifle. He didn't need to fire again. The warlord's spirit was already gone. All around, human soldiers raised their weapons and roared into the smoke-filled sky. The sound carried across the ruins like thunder. Not just a cry of victory, but a warning. The galaxy had tried to conquer Earth. Instead, Earth had passed its judgment, and every star, every empire, every ruler who watched knew the truth. You do not invade a death world. You survive it, if it allows you. The war was over. But its echoes carried across the galaxy like thunder. News of General Korathul's fall spread through every star system, transmitted on pirate channels, official broadcasts, and whispered in shadowed markets. The image of him kneeling in the dirt before human soldiers was replayed endlessly. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's myth of invincibility was broken. On distant alien worlds, fear became law. Entire colonies questioned their loyalty to the Empire. Some whispered of rebellion, others begged for protection. But among all, one phrase was repeated with growing weight: do not provoke the death world. In the Empire's capital, the High Council sat in silence, their grand chamber dim with shame. The councillors argued. Some demanded revenge, others urged caution. But none could erase the truth. Their greatest general had underestimated Earth, and Earth had judged him. Meanwhile, on Earth itself, the people gathered under scarred skies. Soldiers returned home to parades, but the joy was tempered by exhaustion. Cities bore the marks of battle. Families mourned their dead. Yet humanity stood taller than before. For the first time, they were not only defending their world, they were shaping how the galaxy saw them. Captain Hayes stood before a crowd in New York, his voice steady, as cameras streamed his words across systems. They thought we were weak, he said. They thought our world was a curse. But Earth is not a curse. It is a crucible. And those who come to break us will be broken instead. His words became a rallying cry, carried into space, repeated by traders, mercenaries, and even alien diplomats. Humanity had stepped out of the shadows, not as victims, but as a power to be reckoned with. In hidden corners of the galaxy, however, not all accepted the verdict. Rival warlords and jealous rulers began to whisper of plans, not to conquer Earth, but to control it, to twist its fierce nature for their own ends. For every empire that now feared humanity, another schemed to test its resolve again, and somewhere in the void, survivors of Korathul's army swore vengeance. Among them, a young alien officer watched the human broadcasts with burning eyes. One day, he vowed, the death world will kneel. But even as he spoke, deep in his heart, fear gnawed at him. For he knew the truth his general had learned too late. The galaxy would never laugh at Earth again. The legend of the death world had only just begun.